Curtis Calhoun here with MMA News, and my next guest is one of the latest additions to the PFL roster. It's Khai Wu. How's it going, Khai?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Curtis. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. And let's just get right into it. Just kind of talk to me a little bit about what these past few weeks have been like for you since the PFL deal came together, how it came together, and kind of talk to us a little bit about how it all came together.
Yeah. So I believe Lauren is there. Got one of the PFL guys for I think like public relations or the that kind of stuff. But basically, he reached out first, and I got to keep giving him props and much respect for staying on top of everything because he's the one that reached out and he was like, "Hey, you think you'd want to fight for us? And let me see get a couple more fights and then maybe we could talk." And he stuck to his word. He kept his word, and a lot of promoters or people that work for fight organizations always they tend to sell you on this amazing dream, this like talk, but then he stuck to his word and he got me out. Like after one of my last fights, he called me or he messaged me and he was like, "Hey, you want to hop on a call?" We hopped on a call and he was like, "Hey, there's some stuff going down in Atlanta. Do you want to fight around that day?" And, it kind of like went forward from there. So I really appreciate it and thank him for giving me that opportunity and sticking to his guns. And that's kind of how the PFL ball got rolling. As it pertains, like back to your question, like the last 2 weeks, how has it been? It's been the fastest pace, like of like the last 2 weeks, just all over the place. But also, it felt like the slowest too because it went from we're going to send you a contract this week. And it's like, you never know when they're going to send the contract. And, I used to be a very optimistic person, but ever since COVID, like at the height of my career to COVID shutting the world down, I almost like now I'm a little bit jaded. I'm like, I don't know when it, like, you never know when something's going to actually come through. So until it's like pen to paper, I'm not going to believe it, So they kept going like, "Oh, we'll send it to you." But then again, that was during the time the Francis Ngannou deal went down. Um, I think it was when they were talking about buying Bellet, like the rumors of that, and they were in like the Middle East, so they were like all over the place. So then I'm a nobody. So when they were like trying to sign me, I'm sure I was like on the back burner, and they were super busy traveling. And then Lauren was like, "Don't worry about it," but in my head, I was just like, "Oh no, is this gonna happen?" And then when it finally did happen, they were like, "We need you to fill this out, and then you gotta, we're gonna make a post." And I was just like waiting for that, waiting, and then it finally happened. And I was like, I woke up. They said they're gonna. They're like, we want you to prove this and that. But then I think they just got busy. And then that morning, I woke up to my phone blown up. It's usually good or bad, right? Like when you wake up to your phone. And anyways, it was a good thing. And then everyone's like, "Congratulations!" And I was like, "That's awesome."
Yeah, and as you mentioned, like you're joining the PFL like at the perfect time, right? Obviously, we got Francis Ngannou just signed with the PFL. The PFL season is right in the middle of it right now. What have been kind of your impressions of the PFL from an outsider's perspective, and kind of what are your thoughts on some of the unique things that they do?
Okay, so I'm gonna be completely honest. Before signing with PFL, I watched their main fights, like their main cards. And I was actually watching them during World Series of Fighting. Like that's how long ago it was. I watched when Jake Shields was fighting. I think Anthony Johnson fought for them like a long time ago, right? Like during his free agent. So I watched them during that time when they transitioned over. I thought PFL was really cool because I thought the logo looked great. I thought the production quality was cool. They have like a little refs camera, reminded me of Japan Pride. You know what I mean? So it was like, man, it was very kind of nostalgic in a way. And then they were slowly building, so I was following it. But now, if you're asking me, because they have had shows in the last couple weeks, I'm paying attention a little bit more. So I think I'd give you a little bit more of a biased answer now. So I'm going to stick to before I was signed to them, and it was exciting fights. Not the biggest names. Like I didn't know some of the guys that fought. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but they had exciting fights. And I honestly think on a lot of other cards, from other promotions. Sometimes, on the undercards, you really don't know who's fighting either. But then the fights are just such high quality, and you could kind of see that. So I think PFL was really interesting in that instance, and it's a lot easier to kind of watch PFL now. You know what I mean? Like you get to go to ESPN and stuff. Whereas Bellator, I remember I fought for them twice before, and the last time I fought for them, I was on like this after card, like the dark card, and I didn't understand that, and then also it was just kind of tough, like for family to watch it, and they're talking, and then there's a fight in the background. But then I think that was me. So it was my first time I fought for Bellator. I was in the background as these guys were talking, transitioning to the main card. So we're on this weird slot, and then it's so tough to watch Bellator. Like I still don't really know. I fought for them, and I still don't know how to watch them. Like Showtime, I think. But yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to hate on them because I think they're great too. But I think it's just a little bit harder to keep up with the Bellator fights when they're not streaming their main card. The prelims on YouTube, Facebook, whatever, it's easy to find. But so I think PFL definitely has an interesting format, and I like staying active. First year as a pro, I had 5, 6 fights, so I definitely, it was really cool, to like stay active. Obviously, the higher level you get, the more damage you take, but it's still very fun to see this PFL as this tournament format, points. So it kind of incentivizes you, dude. I could win this fight, but I might not be in the playoffs. So I got to really get after it. And then the guy that's on the receiving end, it's like he's like, I just got to cruise, and if I cruise, I win the fight. I get my win money, show money, and I'm in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So it's like he's got to kind of like got a guy that's gunning for his head, and he's trying to look for a win. So it makes it a little bit more exciting, and you could still win, correct, and not be in the playoffs, right? Like if
Right.
you don't have enough
Yeah.
points. So it's very interesting. I never really thought about that because I think that changes the whole dynamic of the fight. Whereas you get two fighters coming off a loss, and they're like, kind of gun shy, and the fight might not be the most exciting, this and that. Whereas this one, it's like, man, you wanted the playoffs, you can't just get a win. You have to, there's a lot more incentives. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and I think over your first year and a half of your career, I think you fought like 7 times or something like that, right? Between 2018 and
Yeah,
2019.
yeah.
So looking at, the season format by itself, obviously there's not a bantamweight division right now, but would you ever be open to potentially fighting on a season format like that?
Yeah, so I mean, not to give out too much information, not that I have a bunch, but I think they were investing in a bantamweight division sometime soon. It's like the most stacked division in MMA right now
Yeah.
across all promotions, right? So I think, I'm honored that they even thought of me first, but I think, eventually that they're going to bring in more names. I don't know what the whole Bellator PFL thing. I never even like. I still don't know if that's a real thing or not. I actually talk to people like you and other journalists, and they give me more insight than it's funny. I work for PFL now, and I don't even know anything about that deal. So I think it's just interesting, but to see them maybe incorporate that. So they start off, with a couple. From what I know, I'm doing showcase fights. So like I might be on the undercard or like an opener for something, and before the tournament format, they might just fill me in somewhere, and I'm more than happy to do that. I want to earn my stripes. But eventually, if there is a tournament format in like 3 to 4 months' time, you have to fight a certain amount of times. So like to me, that's more exciting because in Thailand, they have these Muay Thai fighters have like 400 fights. And why is that? Because they don't spar at all. Every weekend they fight. The damage is accumulated in the fight. The training is just, trying to just stay in shape and the timing. So I think it'd be really cool. Obviously, MMA is a lot harder because it's harder on your joints and body. And when you do a 3 to 4 month fight camp, you get stuck in this mindset of like you think about your opponent every day and you get ready for him and your body's aching and you can't like have a mishap at all. So I prefer shorter turnaround time so that way it's like I stay in shape. I just keep going, keep going, keep going, and I never redline too much, and I could just get into a fight and then recover, get into a fight, recover. So I do prefer that. However, like I'm still open to either or. It's just I don't like long fight camps. I get a lot more injuries like that.
Would you ever be open to featherweight at all? Because I know you fought a couple of catchweight fights, I think around 140 pounds. Would you ever be open to featherweight at all?
To be honest with you, yes, but I'd be like, when Anderson jumped up to light heavyweight on for
Yeah.
fun and stuff. I think I'd do more stuff like that. Because I think the issue with I'm not a 45. I'm like 5'7". You know what I mean? I'm five. Yeah, I'm like 5'7", walking around at like maybe 160. You know what I mean? 155 and 160. So it's not like I'm huge for the featherweight. There's featherweights like Max Holloway. Yair Rodriguez. These guys are like almost all 6 foot.
Yeah.
So like to like do like a short notice fight for like a lower level 45er maybe, but it doesn't make any like career wise. It doesn't make sense for me to kind of jump into something like that. There's even thoughts of me going to 25s at some point. Beforehand, but now I'm kind of like filling out. I've always been like a late bloomer, so now it's like bantamweight's kind of like pretty good. The last 2 weight cuts I had at bantamweight, man, the best I ever felt. And one of them was even in I think it was in Colorado where that fight. the commission didn't show up till like 5. So it's like old school UFC days where you weighed in at 5, and then and then sorry, at 5, and then basically you don't get a full 24 hour, 24 hour like rehydration thing. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely think the last couple weight cuts have like shown me like 35s is definitely it.
What can you tell us in terms of like what's the up to date plan for your first PFL fight? Are we looking at possibly getting on one of those August cards or on the championships cards? Have they told you anything in terms of a time frame when we could see you?
I think they gave me an option, and I think I said something like, I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know. I think they gave me a couple options. I said the sooner the better. So I'm assuming August, but I'll be honest with you, I have been given no names. Like not one name has popped up. So, the best I could do right now is just stay ready, but in the event they want me in August card, I'm currently training, it's like as if I was getting ready for a fight, but I'm not like killing myself, so if they once they send me a name, like let's say I get a name within the next hour or this week for an August event, I'm going to be like, okay, boom, I'm ready to go. If not, I'm not too worried. Do I want to fight? Absolutely, but it's more quality over quantity now. You know what I mean? So it's like the quality of my training camp has to be really good. Yeah, so it's not so much like just accept any fight. It's more like I got a bigger playing field now, and I don't have to. The nice thing about getting signed to PFL is I don't have to worry about when my next fight is. Like reach out to different promotions or accept different promotions terms. It's like boom, I'm with PFL now. So I know a fight is looming around the corner. It's just up to me to accept. So that's the nice thing.
It was funny because I was getting ready for this interview and I saw the post the PFL made announcing your signing and all that. And I was like, I recognize that name from somewhere. I think you did a TED talk like 2 or 3 years ago. I want to say something like that.
Uh, yeah, it was a TEDx
Yeah.
talk. I don't know the exact difference between a
Yeah.
TED talk and a TEDx. I think a TED talk is much cooler. Like I think like you got to be a somebody. But yeah, I definitely did do a TEDx talk in Taiwan.
Yeah, it's something that was interesting that I took away from it was you talked a little bit about childhood bullying and kind of how that fueled your
Yeah.
entrance into combat sports, self-defense, all that. Just kind of talk to us a little bit about that. Like how did that kind of catapult your athletic career in a sense?
Yeah, I mean, getting bullied obviously isn't fun, and I think a lot of times we could either run from it and just kind of hide, or face it head on. And not just bullying, but it has to do with a lack of confidence. Like if you're like if someone came up to me and was like, "Kai, I could beat you up," right? Like in the streets, like if some random guy just came up to me and said, "I'm going to beat you up," I wouldn't be threatened much at all, because I'm just like, oh, I'm a trained athlete, like I'm a trained fighter. I wouldn't be too worried. So I'm secure, I'm confident. Now, the only reason why we're not confident is because there's somewhat of a little bit of a truth to it. And on top of that, it's also like, why are you talking to me like that? It comes with, it's like if I was a confident person, I wouldn't get bullied as much. And I mean, granted, there is, I don't want to go too much into like psychology of trauma and all that stuff, but at the same time, it's pretty simple. Like kids are bullies, but when we're younger, we don't know why they're bullies. It's because they're probably getting bullied at home or so now that I'm older, I kind of understand that concept a little bit more, so I'm not so harsh on people like I used to be. Like I used to fuel myself with anger and like the bullies, but now it's like, man, they're just probably having a tough day. Like some guy honks at me and flips me off on a cry, and I'm like, man, this guy's having a tough day. Like you never know. I started inclining to like lean towards more of that thought process, because it's just like, what is there to be mad about? Like someone flips you off. It's like if you're pretty like having a good day that day, like you're gonna be like, ah, oh, it's all right, man. But then why is it always when we're in a bad mood we get triggered? So you kind of understand the psychology of those things. So therefore, getting bullied really fueled me, to kind of want to be a better version of myself, because there was some truth to that. That is like, I don't think I've ever really like talked about bullying like that, but there's some truth to what I was being told. They're like, you're small, you're not athletic, you're unathletic, you can't play basketball, no one likes you, you're not going to make the team. And when it came down to like, maybe trying to get a girlfriend in high school, it was like, you're too short or you're not strong, like you're not like a athlete or anything. So I did take, like, you're right. Like I'm kind of like, why would, I'm just not very confident. I didn't know how to talk very well, very shy. Like, like it made sense to me now, but back then I was like, that's so mean. Wait till you get to know me a little bit more. And I'm like, well, you got to put yourself in these situations. So instead of using just like kind of running away from my problem, I kind of looked at it from like an unbiased point of view and kind of went like, okay, I need to get better here. And it's not because I'm getting better because I think I want to like, come back and say, hey, I told you so. It's more like, you know what? Like I do want to be able to protect someone or protect myself or have the confidence, So that kind of led me down this path. And without getting too long, because again, I don't know how much time you have. I'm sure you have other interviews, but
Yeah, you're
without
good.
getting too long into it, it led me down to this path where I am today. And I gave a TEDx speech 3 years ago, and I'm just like, man, whenever people bring that up to me, I'm still like, did I really do that? Like
Yeah.
it's still so crazy because like I always tell people, I'm like, what you see on social media from me is kind of what you get. Like there's no like fake side or anything. I'm pretty open. So when you ask me questions like this, it makes me take a trip down memory lane. I kind of go like, man, I do remember when I was playing basketball, dribbling the ball with two hands and getting made fun of, and then they threw basketballs at me and I got so scared and I was kind of like embarrassed. Like, why is that? And then to now where I'm like, man, like I was kind of a little dummy, like dribbling a ball with two hands. Like, why didn't I learn? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's always a different way to go about it, but I'm just like, am I like, did I really go from that to like fighting in PFL? Like, that's the most scary thing, like in terms of sports, I think, to like go fight another human being. Like, how did I go from that to this? It's just very weird, like parallel, So I don't know. I've always found that kind of funny. I'm like, man, I'm still scared of fighting, to be honest with you. Like when I fight, I'm like, man, I hope I don't get knocked out, or I hope I don't. So there still is that fear, but I think it's the way you channel it, maybe look at it and kind of use it as motivation. That's kind of what gets you here.
Yeah, totally, man. I totally get it. And I appreciate your perspective on it too. It's always cool kind of, talking to fighters about, how they were brought up and what kind of led them to this path. So I really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Few more questions for me, man. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Mark Zuckerberg. You've gotten some training in with him in MMA.
Yep.
Obviously, we could talk about the Elon Musk fight and all that, and that's kind of been already touched on. But I want to get your insight. Like, what kind of MMA student is a guy like Mark Zuckerberg that has, billions of dollars, has this massive company? I mean, what kind of student is he in there?
I mean, very detail oriented, hard worker. Um, man, like you could have fooled me and like told me like let's say this was a different timeline, where he wasn't who he was, but he had all his physical attributes and whatnot, and we were friends. And he said, hey, I want to be a pro fighter. And he was like maybe 18, 19. I would have been like, yeah, sure, like pursue that career potentially. He's pretty tough. And yeah, you would think someone like him would not be as disciplined and like I don't know, like I just am very impressed and constantly inspired all the time by seeing stuff like that. And I'm a martial artist, first. Like I'm not big into the antics of like showmanship. I get it, that's my career now, so I do partake in that a little bit. But in terms of just the pure martial arts stuff, it's it's very interesting to see someone like him, take a liking to being so physical, technical, aggressive, and like just being a student of the game, like a real student of the game. That's like literally what I think of him when people go, hey, like there's always people that ask, "Ooh, Kai, you train Mark? How is he?" And I'm like, student of the game, man. Like I really think that his work ethic, and it definitely motivates the instructors, the training partners he has around. We look at that. I'm like, man, we got to work harder too. So there's it's constant seeking of knowledge for me to constantly go out there and be better, challenge myself, and do all this stuff, and not be in too comfortable of a state in life because I see him do what he does, and I'm like, man, he doesn't have to, but then he still does it, and it motivates me. I always tell people that because people are like, he's not really training, and I'm like, regardless if he is or not, it's like the fact that someone like him still wants to learn a martial arts. It's like he doesn't have to. So it's really cool to see that true student of the game, hard worker, you know, man, I don't think I've missed any scheduled sessions that we're supposed to have ever. Just shows up, trains hard. That's honestly what I think of him, student of the game.
For a guy like him that, obviously this Elon Musk fight may or may not happen. It's still kind of up in the air at this point. But
Yeah,
if it does happen, obviously he has that grappling background. We saw him in the headlines not too long ago winning a jiu-jitsu tournament. For a
yeah.
guy like him, would you advise him to, keep focusing on building his grappling skills and what he's kind of familiar with? Or would you kind of suggest that he work more on his striking and developing a more well-rounded skill set?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really know. Personally, me, when I've dealt with bigger guys, I don't like to grapple with them just because they're like so heavy. But
Yeah.
again, I don't know like Musk's background, Elon's background, so I wouldn't. I don't. I wouldn't want to like assume like how to. I need to do homework on that, if anything. But again, like I think Dana's done a pretty good job of promoting it. He had that video where he was wearing the Zucker, like versus Musk. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um, to be honest with you, the way I even like think about that question, it's still like just being honest with you, it's bizarre that we're even talking about that. Like just hear those two names, I'm just like, what are we
Yeah.
talking about? Like how crazy is that? Like never in a million. Like what is the Earth ending? Is that what it is? Is that like is that are we about to be done because this is like the final showdown stuff? So I don't know.
Right.
I I haven't really thought of that just because I'm like I don't know how I don't want to speculate. My job is to just show up, train, and then that's it. So I wouldn't really know, but man, it's really cool to kind of like I don't know. I get excited if I was a part of this, and I would say how to fight. I don't know, like for a beginner, I always think like, have you ever eaten a leg kick before? Like that hurts really bad, or
Right.
have you ever got body shot?
Yeah.
But again, like how tall is he? Like I don't even know how tall Elon is, or this and that. So I think it'd be really interesting to like see like like a size comparison. I don't know, but I
So you're
will
saying it
say
kind of it kind of depends on the measurables per se, like height, weight,
yeah,
and all
like
that
like
stuff.
again, yeah, like I don't have any of this info. I've never met Elon before, and I don't know how tall he is, this that. But I will say I think everyone thinks fighting is fun until you get punched in the face. That is the thing. Like I really want to see. I think whoever could take a punch better wins.
Right.
Yeah, everyone always like, God, I want to do MMA, and then they ask me, and then we start messing around, and the first thing I do is punch them in the face. It's like not hard, but like I tap them, and
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, yeah, you got to like. There's been plenty of celebrities or people I've worked with and they're like, I want to like let's have fun, like let's mess around. I touch them to the body a little bit. They're like, "Ooh, that hurt," or like a leg kick. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you didn't know it was that bad." So I think that is something that it sounds very fun. I mean, there is a reason why celebrity boxing is the thing, and it's not celebrity MMA, right? Like, there's
Mhm.
no celebrities coming over to because you don't play MMA. I'm not saying you play boxing because I love boxing, but you could almost kind of get away with two guys getting gloves on with like 12-ounce gloves, hitting each other kind of hard. There's a standing 8 count. You could throw in a towel. You could do that in MMA too, yes, but that like I could block in boxing and kind of turn my back, and the ref will step in and save me. In MMA, it's like you could pick someone up and slam them, and there's no ref like right there to stop it instantly. Like you just drops it. Like remember Fedor and Kevin Randleman? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that could happen. There's no ref midair stopping it. So I do think it's pretty crazy to think about like MMA. If I was a rich guy and just kind of like if I was just a rich guy, not even like we don't even need to talk about billions. If I just won the lottery, 100 million or so, I don't know. I don't think I'd be going like I want to get slammed on my head today. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I'd just be like, no, I'm perfectly happy and fine getting a bunch of hot pot and drinking boba every day and living a happy life. So that's what I
Absolutely,
think.
man. Absolutely, man. And once again, I really do appreciate the time, Khai. It was great to meet you. Great to chat with you. Before we wrap things up here, I'll give you the final word to shout out your team, give out your social media if you want, give out any shout outs. I'll give you the final word, man.
Yeah, thank you. My YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter and TikTok are all pretty much my name, like Khai Wu. People could always reach out to me. I love chatting with people. I get a lot of like messages. Sorry, it's shaking. Um, I get a lot of like messages all the time, so I love to chat with fans and people that have questions about MMA. I even got like a lot of like these ever since that first video that dropped with Mark, I got a lot of people that messaged me that are like NFT guys or like engineers and stuff. They reached out to me. They're like, "Can I train?" I'm like, "Of course you can." So I love spreading martial arts around, So definitely, want to just say thank you to everyone that's been supporting me. We're in the PFL now, and I'm ready to like show everyone these new skills I've been building on and taking everyone on this new journey. It's very exciting. And then thank you to all my coaches and training partners and teammates for helping me out. Like I wouldn't be here without them. And then my sponsors. Like you win some fights, you lose some fights, but the sponsors that have stuck with me through the wins and losses that just genuinely care about me, I appreciate them a lot. Shout out to my sponsor, Geology, Stamina Pro, Dynasty Clothing, and Warlocker. These guys all take great care of me. And again, I thank you for your time for letting me come on and speak. I always love chatting with new people.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And once we get a fight announcement, let's definitely collaborate closer to then. And we can't wait to
Sure.
see you get in the PFL cage. And thanks again for the time. Really do appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll chat again soon, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sounds good.